Welcome back. I am the Body Whisperer, and I am glad you are here. Before we begin, let us settle in together. Find a comfortable position. Let your arms grow heavy, your legs, your shoulders. Take a slow breath in and let it go. One more. In and release. Good. Now, while you rest here doing nothing at all, something quiet is happening inside you. Your body is working. It always is. Every hour of every day, without ever asking for thanks. I want you to get to know it a little better, to listen to it, to feel it, to appreciate it. Because the more you understand the quiet world beneath your skin, the more at home you feel inside your own body. So come and meet Heart Harvey, one small part of you that keeps working through the night while you sleep. This is the story of 2 hours of human anatomy to fall asleep to. There is nothing you need to do now, nowhere to be, nothing to figure out. Just breathe, close your eyes if you have not already, and let us begin. There is a quiet piece of work going on inside you right now, and it has been going on every night of your life. Not the soft breathing, not the settling of the mattress. Something far deeper than that. Something so constant and so careful that the body never once mentions it. Not when you are awake, not when you are asleep, not at any point in between. The body at night is not the body switched off. That is the thing worth sitting with. We talk about sleep as if it were absence. As if the lights go out, the doors close, and nothing moves until morning. And lying here in the dark, with the weight of the day finally somewhere else, that picture is easy to believe, but it is not what is happening, not even close. What is actually happening is a shift change. The daytime crew, the one built for motion, for decision, for holding your coffee and answering your email, that crew is stepping back. And another crew, older and quieter, and in some ways far more skilled, is stepping forward. They have been waiting. They know exactly what to do. And they have roughly 7 hours to do it before the alarm undoes most of their good work. This tour of yours, because that is what this is, a slow and quiet tour, moves from the outside of the body to the very inside. We begin at the skin, the outer boundary of everything, the place where you meet the world. From there, we move inward to the skeleton, to the muscle, to the heart and the blood that carries its work everywhere. Then, deeper still, to the lungs, to the great processing rooms of the liver and kidneys, and finally to the brain, that strange energy-hungry organ that does its heaviest maintenance precisely when awareness goes quiet. And at the very end, smaller than any of that, a single cell, doing what it has done since the beginning of life. Every stop on this journey carries the same truth. The heart slows, but it does not stop. The breath becomes the calmest rhythm of the day, but it never pauses for sentiment. The digestive system quiets without closing. The brain, which cannot clean itself while you are busy using it, runs its entire maintenance system through the night. Repair, immune work, memory making, the slow release of the hormones that rebuild tissue, all of it is happening in this window, and in no other quite like it. So let the shoulders drop a little. Let the jaw go soft. You are not missing anything. You are, in the most literal biological sense, exactly where you are supposed to be. Now, close your eyes and think of it not as a surface, but as a living layer, a largest organ in the body, though it rarely gets called that. It covers everything. It keeps the inside in and the outside out. It senses temperature, pressure, texture. It repairs itself while you rest, quietly patching the small insults of the day. The dry patch, the minor scratch, the place where the waistband pressed too long. At this hour, the skin is doing something it can only really do in rest. The blood vessels just beneath its surface, tiny ones fine as thread, have relaxed their tone. Blood moves through them a little more slowly. The skin temperature rises slightly as that warmth redistributes from the core outward. That is not a flaw. That is the design. The body sheds heat at night as part of the signal that sleep is starting, and the skin is the radiator. Melatonin Mila set this in motion. She is a small, precise molecule, shaped, if you had to picture it, like a deep violet teardrop. And she is released by a tiny gland deep in the brain called the pineal gland, right around the time darkness settles in. She moves through the bloodstream, sending one quiet message to every organ she passes. The light is gone. The shift is changing. Stand down from the day. If you want to know her full story, and it is a good one, involving the invention of artificial lighting and a great deal of patient waiting, she has her own episode. Here, she is just the first quiet signal, a door opening. The skin receives that signal and responds. Repair cells called fibroblasts, which spend the day on standby, become more active. They lay down the protein collagen, the structural scaffolding that keeps skin firm and intact. They knit over the microscopic wear of the day. They do not hurry. Outside, if you were watching, you would see nothing. A person lying still, breathing, the faint rise and fall of a chest. The skin doing what skin has always done in the dark, working in its own unhurried way toward morning. This is the body's oldest habit. Before there were beds or roofs or 7-hour schedules, the dark was still a biological instruction. Rest. Repair. Be ready. Harvey knows this. Deep in the chest, the heart, warm and patient and perpetually employed, has already eased its pace. Not much, just enough. The daytime urgency is leaving the bloodstream, the way a long exhale leaves the lungs. Slower now, quieter. The skin is settling. The first layer of this long night's work has already begun. Notice the weight of your head on the pillow. Heavier than you thought. Let it be that heavy. Beneath the skin, a quarter-inch down, sometimes less, you reach something most people picture as fixed, inert, a framework that simply holds the rest of you upright and waits. That picture is wrong in almost every detail. The skeleton is not scaffolding, it is living tissue. It has its own blood supply, its own nerve fibers, its own cellular workforce. And it is doing some of its most deliberate work right now, while the muscles above it have gone quiet, and the joints have finally been given a rest from weight and motion. There are 206 bones in the adult human body. That number is worth holding for a moment, not because it is large, but because each one of those 206 structures is threaded through with tiny channels carrying blood and signal both ways. Nutrients in, waste products out, instruction and response. The bone is in constant conversation with the rest of the body, and sleep is when that conversation gets its longest uninterrupted stretch. Here is the thing most people have never been told. Bone is not one thing, it is layers. The hard outer shell, called cortical bone, gives it its famous strength, the reason a femur can bear the load of a running body without snapping. But inside that shell, especially near the ends of the long bones and through the spine, is a softer, latticed interior called trabecular bone, meaning it is built in open struts rather than solid walls, the way a cathedral is lighter than a brick because of its arches. And threaded through that lattice, filling the hollow core of the longest bones entirely, is marrow. Marrow is the body's blood factory. Every red blood cell moving through you right now, carrying oxygen from the lungs to every other structure, was made in marrow. A great many of the white blood cells that Willie, the body's night security officer, sends on patrol, all of it comes from here. From this soft interior that most people picture as empty space. Marrow does not stop at night. It does not slow in any meaningful way. It is one of the body's most continuously active tissues, cycling through production around the clock, keeping the supply of cells steady so that nothing downstream ever notices a gap. And alongside the marrow, the bone itself is being tended. There are two kinds of cell that share this work, though not always willingly, and never at the same time. Osteoclasts are the dissolvers. They move through the bone in small crews, breaking down old or micro-damaged sections of the mineral structure into components the bloodstream can carry away. Behind them come the osteoblasts, the builders laying fresh mineral matrix in the cleared spaces. The old material out, new material down. A permanent renovation that has been ongoing since before you were born and will not stop until you are very old. What sleep changes is the balance of that renovation. During the day, when the skeleton is under load, walking, standing, carrying, absorbing impact, the signals that drive osteoclast activity, rise. The body reads mechanical stress as a reason to assess and selectively remove. When that stress lifts at night, and the body is horizontal and still, the conditions for osteoblast work improve. The building phase has more room. Growth hormone, which we will spend more time with later in this journey, pulses through the bloodstream in deep sleep and nudges the osteoblasts toward deposition, toward laying down rather than clearing out. The skeleton, in other words, is not resting. It is catching up on construction. And it is doing something else as well, something quieter. The bones are one of the body's mineral reserves. Calcium lives in bone the way savings live in an account. Not locked away, but available, drawn on when the bloodstream's own calcium drifts below the level the muscles and nerves require to function. Through the night, as no new calcium is coming in from food, the skeleton manages that reserve carefully. Signals pass back and forth between the parathyroid glands in the neck and the bone itself, adjusting the balance so that the blood's calcium level holds steady. The heart muscle, which cannot function without it, never notices any fluctuation. Harvey knows this. He doesn't say so. He simply keeps his rhythm, trusting that the calcium will be there when each electrical signal calls for it, trusting the skeleton to do its part of the work so that he can do his. That quiet trust between systems, the heart counting on the bone responding to signals from glands the size of grains of rice, is one of the things that makes the body at night feel almost implausible when you look at it closely. Not one system ticking over alone, but dozens of systems in ongoing, coordinated conversation, each one adjusting to keep the other stable. Let the weight of your body sink a little further now. The pressure of the mattress against your hips, your shoulders, the length of your spine, that is the skeleton accepting support for the first time since morning. The joints are decompressing slowly. The fluid inside each one is being redistributed. The frame is not resting. It is being looked after. That is not quite the same thing. It is not a small difference. There is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing you have forgotten. The night is long, and it belongs to you. The skeleton holds the shape. That much we have settled. But wrapped around every bone, layered in long ribbons and dense bundles, the muscles are doing something the word rest does not quite capture. Muscle at rest is not muscle off duty. That is the thing nobody says plainly enough. Here is what actually happens when a muscle stops moving. The fibers, those long, fine filaments packed in parallel like cables in a sleeve, are not simply waiting. They are in the middle of a job. During the day, contraction means work. Fibers slide against each other, burn fuel, generate force, accumulate small damage at the microscopic level, tiny tears. Not injury, just the ordinary cost of doing what muscle does. The body expects this. The body has a plan for this. But the plan only runs when the muscle is at rest, and the rest only runs deep enough when you are asleep. The plan is called repair. Technically, the process falls under a broader term called protein synthesis, meaning the building of new protein strands to replace the ones that wore thin. Muscle is made of protein the way rope is made of fiber. Every hard coal frays a few strands. Sleep is when the body retwists them. And here is the thing that makes this genuinely remarkable. The muscle does not repair itself with whatever is lying around. It rebuilds slightly stronger than before, not dramatically, not overnight. Gradually, across many nights, the rebuilt fiber handles a little more than the original did. The body is conservative about this. It does not overpromise. It simply improves on what was already there in small and patient increments, night by night. None of that happens without sleep. A person who trains hard and then cuts sleep short gets the damage without the repair. The soreness is real. The rebuilding is not. That is not a warning. It is just the mechanic's description of what the process requires. The machine needs downtime to run the maintenance cycle. Growth hormone Greg deserves a mention here, because this is exactly where his work shows up. Greg is a peptide, meaning a small protein messenger, released in pulses from the front part of the brain's master gland, the pituitary, that small pearl-shaped structure sitting just below the brain's center. He appears in his own episode, but right now the short version is this. Greg drives the night shift in muscle and tissue repair. He signals the muscle cells to take up amino acids, the raw building blocks of protein, and get to work. His message is simple, and his timing is precise. He shows up during deep sleep, not light sleep, not the half-awake minutes before the alarm. Deep sleep, the kind where the body goes very still and the breath becomes long and slow. Greg, if pressed, would tell you, while you sleep, I build. He is not boasting. He is just describing his schedule. The cells respond to the signal, gather materials, stitch new protein, reinforce the fibers. By the time morning light begins to filter through the curtains, the muscles that ran and lifted and carried through the day are slightly better prepared for tomorrow. Not because they rested in the passive sense, because they worked in a different direction. Feel the weight of your arms right now against whatever surface they are resting on. That weight is largely water and protein, dense patient tissue, not inert, not blank, just running the other shift. There is one more thing worth noticing about muscle at night, and it is quieter than repair. Muscle tone, the very slight, constant tension that keeps posture honest during the day, drops during sleep. In most stages of sleep, the body does not go completely slack, but the baseline tension falls. The jaw unclenches, the shoulders drop. The small muscles along the spine, the ones that have been holding the stack of vertebrae upright all day, ease off by degrees. It is not collapse, it is permission. The skeleton, as we said, holds the shape. The muscles, having done their day's work, are given a few hours off from the standing watch. The heart is muscle too. a very specific kind, a kind that does not get the same permission to ease off. Not fully, not ever. It will get its own unhurried time in a little while. For now, it is enough to know it is there, steady at the center of the chest, doing what it has always done. It does not need to be reminded. It does not need to be supervised. Harvey knows this. The skeletal muscles rest and repair. The cardiac muscle adjusts its pace and keeps going. They share the category, these two kinds of tissue, though not always the same rules. The body is like that, full of systems that look parallel until you get close enough to see where they diverge. Where they converge again is here. Both of them depend on what happens through the rest of the night. Both of them need the quiet that is building around you now, the darkness, the stillness, the slow, involuntary deepening of the breath. The muscles are not waiting for morning. They are using the night. It did not make the body idle. It made it industrious. Notice how easy the breath has become. Coming and going, coming and going. You are not managing it. It knows the way on its own. It did not make the body idle. It made it industrious. And now, moving inward from the muscle, we come to the engine at the center of it all, the heart. Not a metaphor. That word is earned here just this once. The heart is a pump. Specifically, it is a muscular pump about the size of a closed fist, sitting slightly left of center in the chest, tucked between the lungs, working every second of every minute of every hour of a life. It does not rest between beats the way a resting muscle rests. It contracts, releases, refills, contracts again. That release, that brief open moment between beats, is the closest the heart ever comes to a pause. And even then, the electrical current is already building for the next one. Harvey knows this. He has never explained it to anyone. He does not have the words or the interest in finding them. He just keeps going. Boom. A pause so short it has no name in everyday language. Boom again. That is his whole autobiography, written in rhythm across a lifetime. What changes at night is not whether Harvey beats. It is how he beats. During the hours a person is awake and upright and moving through the world, the heart runs at a pace that keeps up with demand. Muscles need fuel delivered. The brain wants a steady supply. The eyes are scanning, the legs are walking, the mind is turning things over. The heart obliges. It beats faster, harder, more often. It is responding to signals from the nervous system, a branch of it called the sympathetic nervous system, the part that keeps the body alert and ready. But when sleep arrives, real sleep, the kind where the body has let go of the day, a different branch takes over. This one is called the parasympathetic nervous system. It does not shout. It simply lowers the volume on everything that was running loud. The heart rate drifts down, not to nothing, not even close to nothing. but measurably, gently, it settles into a slower rhythm. Fewer beats per minute, less pressure required, less output demanded. The blood still moves, every organ still receives its delivery. But the pace of those deliveries slows to match the pace of a body that is no longer climbing stairs, or carrying worry, or holding a phone. And here is the thing that is easy to miss. The variation matters as much as the rate. A healthy heart in sleep does not beat with mechanical precision, one beat arriving at exactly the same interval as the last. It breathes a little. The gap between beats expands and contracts in a subtle pattern, tied to the rhythm of breathing, tied to signals from the nervous system, tied to a kind of flexibility in the heart's response that physicians measure and call heart rate variability, sometimes shortened to HRV. A higher variability within a healthy range tends to suggest that the nervous system is responsive, that it is listening and adjusting, rather than locked into a single rigid pace. Sleep is one of the places where that variability can recover. During deep, undisturbed sleep, the parasympathetic nervous system holds the lead. The heart responds. The intervals between beats settle into a gentle, natural sway. It is not dramatic. It would look on a monitor like a very calm sea rather than a flat one. That subtle motion is the heart in its best working condition. Responsive, flexible, not overdriven. Harvey knows this hour. He would not say it that way, of course. He would not say it at all. But if you could ask him what he needs, what one thing would let him do his job well for another few decades, he would answer without hesitation: uninterrupted sleep. Not because he stops during sleep, because during sleep, the conditions are finally right for the work that makes all the other work possible. The heart is muscle, after all. Cardiac muscle, a specific kind, different from the skeletal muscle in the arms and legs, built to contract continuously without fatigue in the way a bicep would fatigue. But it is still tissue. It still has cells. Those cells still require oxygen, still require fuel, still undergo the slow accumulation of daily use. And the blood vessels that serve the heart, the ones that wrap around it and feed it from the outside, called the coronary arteries, those vessels benefit from the lower pressure and slower pace of sleep in ways that are quiet and steady and not at all dramatic. Lower demand means lower pressure against the walls of those vessels. That lower pressure, held for hours through the night, is part of the cardiovascular system's maintenance window. Not a repair in the way muscle fibers repair. More like the difference between running a machine at full load and running it at a gentle idle while the parts stay warm and lubricated and the wear rate drops. The skeleton handed its calcium to the bloodstream so the heart's electrical signals could fire cleanly. The muscles stepped back so blood could be redirected to wherever it was needed most. The whole body, in its different ways, has been setting the table for the heart to do its quieter, steadier, nighttime work. Around 100,000 times each day, Harvey beats. That number does not change much whether a person is awake or asleep. But the quality of those beats, the efficiency, the variability, the pressure, the ease, that shifts considerably when sleep is present and real. It did not make the night a vacation for the heart. It made it a different kind of work. Everything is quieter than it was a moment ago. Even the small sounds have gone soft around the edges. It did not make the night a vacation for the heart. It made it a different kind of work. And just beside that work, so close the two systems share a rhythm, the lungs are doing something equally quiet and equally essential. Breathing is the one thing the body does that you can control or leave alone. You can speed it up on purpose. You can hold it for a moment. But let your attention drift, and it carries on without you. That is not an accident. That is the design. Deep in the brainstem, the oldest part of the brain, the part that was already ancient before mammals had names, a cluster of neurons fires in a steady, automatic loop. Breathe in, pause. Breathe out. It does not wait for instructions. It does not check whether you are awake. It simply runs, the way a clock runs, because the mechanism is wound and the gears are set. The technical name for this cluster is the respiratory rhythm generator, but the plain name is more useful. It is the automatic breathing center. It has been keeping that loop going since you were hours old, and it will keep it going through every hour of this night. Here is the thing most people never quite register. The chest rises because the diaphragm, a dome-shaped sheet of muscle sitting just below the lungs, pulls downward and creates a slight drop in pressure inside the chest. That drop is enough. Air flows in the way water flows downhill, not because it is pushed, but because the path is opened and the pressure difference says go. The lungs themselves have no muscle. They are not pumping. They are being pulled open from below, and they fill because physics allows it. And then the breath goes out. The diaphragm relaxes. The chest recoils gently. The lungs, which have a natural springiness to them, a quality called elastic recoil, simply return toward their resting shape. That return pushes the air back out. No effort, just release. At rest, the breathing rate slows. During the deepest stretches of sleep, it slows further. The body's demand for oxygen has fallen because the muscles are quiet. The body temperature has eased downward, and the metabolic rate, the speed at which the body burns fuel for energy, has dropped to its lowest point of the full day. Less demand, less breathing needed. The system adjusts without being told. This is the body at night, not switched off. Running the same respiratory machinery it ran all day, but dialing the effort down to match exactly what the moment requires. Not one breath more than necessary. The air that comes in passes through the nose when sleep is undisturbed, where it is warmed and humidified before it reaches the delicate tissue of the airways. The nose has a lining rich in blood vessels that act as a quiet heater, and tiny hair-like structures called cilia that sweep debris along and away from the lungs all through the night. The lungs themselves are lined with a thin liquid layer called surfactant, which keeps the small air sacs called alveoli from collapsing in on themselves between breaths. Each alveolus is wrapped in a net of capillaries so fine and so close that oxygen and carbon dioxide can swap sides across a membrane no thicker than a single cell. Oxygen crosses in, carbon dioxide crosses out. The blood carries its new cargo away, and the breath that comes back has done its job. This exchange happens with every single breath, all night long, without one moment's pause. What changes in sleep is the chemistry of the conversation between the brain and the lungs. While you are awake, the body monitors several things to set the breathing rate. The level of carbon dioxide in the blood is the main signal, not oxygen as most people assume. When carbon dioxide rises, the automatic breathing center notices and quickens the pace. When it falls, the pace eases. In sleep, that feedback loop continues, but the entire system runs at a lower register. The chemical thresholds shift slightly. The body tolerates a slightly looser swing in carbon dioxide before it nudges the breathing rate in either direction. This is not inattention. It is the system calibrating itself to a quieter context. The chest rises and falls. The blanket moves in a small, slow wave. The room is still. Lars, lymphatic Lars, who manages the brain's own quiet drainage system, would tell you that this steady, unhurried breathing is part of what makes the night's maintenance possible. The pressure inside the skull sways gently with each breath, in and out, and that sway helps move the brain's cleaning fluid through its channels. Lars appears properly in his own episode, which covers the brain and its remarkable overnight housekeeping in full. For now, note only that the breath and the brain are not separate stories. They are part of the same slow rhythm. Harvey knows this hour. The heart and the lungs share their pacing, the way two musicians share a tempo. The heart slows and the breath follows. The breath deepens and the heart responds. Neither one leads, neither one follows entirely. They move together, loosely synchronized, through the whole long stretch of the sleeping night. The body is breathing, not with effort, just steadily, just enough. The same mechanism that has never once needed your attention is doing its quiet work, and it is very good at what it does. It did not need the night to slow down before it could manage. It made the nights quiet into the easiest version of its job. Let the jaw unclench. Let the space between the eyebrows go smooth. Small places hold the day longest. And so we move inward. Past the lungs, past the slow and steady heart, deeper into the body's center, where two organs sit side by side, doing some of the most important work of the night, and doing it almost entirely without a sound. Most people, if you ask them what the digestive system does while they sleep, would say, nothing much. It rests, it waits. It shuts down for the evening, the same way a restaurant kitchen closes after the last table is cleared. That is a reasonable guess. It is also not quite right. Here's what actually happens. After the last meal of the day, the active work of digestion, the churning of the stomach, the rhythmic squeezing of the small intestine that moves food along, the enzymes breaking everything into smaller and smaller pieces, that work does slow considerably. The stomach empties. The small intestine finishes its passage. The body is no longer processing a meal, but the liver and the kidneys do not clock out. Not even close. The liver sits in the upper right side of the abdomen, tucked just under the ribs. It is the largest solid organ inside the body, and it is without much argument the most quietly overworked. It has somewhere around 500 documented functions. The number is not an exaggeration. It is just what the liver does, simultaneously, continuously, without announcement. While the rest of the body sleeps, the liver is running what might fairly be called the night shift's most demanding station. One of its most essential jobs during sleep is managing the body's blood sugar, the glucose that keeps the brain supplied through the hours between dinner and breakfast. The brain does not store its own fuel in any meaningful way. It relies on a steady delivery. So the liver, drawing on its stored form of sugar, a compact molecule called glycogen, breaks that storage back down into usable glucose and releases it gradually into the blood. This process, called gluconeogenesis, when the liver builds new glucose from other materials entirely, and glycogenolysis, when it breaks the stored kind back down, runs quietly through the early morning hours, keeping the level steady. No spike, no shortage, just a slow, careful management of supply. That is where Glycogen Gary can be found most nights, standing at the liver's internal stores, measuring what goes out and when, with the calm precision of a warehouse manager who has done this long enough to trust the rhythm of it. Gary belongs to his own episode, and it is worth finding, but for now, just know he is there, and the work is real. The liver does more than fuel. It processes whatever arrived earlier in the day, medications, compounds that need to be transformed before the kidneys can remove them, anything the body absorbed that does not belong in circulation. This is not dramatic. The liver does not scrub or purge. It converts. It changes the shape of molecules, making the fat-soluble things water-soluble, making the complex things simple enough to be filtered out. Methodically. Liver Lisa, if you asked her how she was doing, would say, "We have order here," and that would be the full answer. The kidneys work alongside her, each one roughly the size of a fist, sitting on either side of the spine behind the abdominal organs. Their work through the night is filtration, pulling the blood through a vast arrangement of tiny loops, keeping what the body needs, releasing what it does not into urine. They also manage the body's fluid balance, its salt levels, and the chemical environment of the blood itself. The kidneys are partly responsible for keeping blood pressure from drifting too high or low, while the heart does its slower sleeping work. And here is the thing nobody usually mentions about the kidneys at night. They actually reduce their output, not because they rest, because the body lying horizontal and still is redistributing its fluid differently than a body walking upright. The kidneys read that change and adjust. Less urine produced in the early hours of sleep. More as morning approaches. This is not a failure to function. It is precise, responsive function. The body at night is not the body switched off. It is the same anatomy, running a different shift. That is true in the muscles and the bones. It is true in the heart and the lungs. And it is unmistakably true here, in the liver and the kidneys, where the work is invisible and steady and absolutely without pause. Insulin Ivan makes a quiet passage through the bloodstream in these hours too, not in the surges that follow a meal, but in a low background presence, keeping the liver's output in conversation with what the blood actually needs. His own episode explains the full rhythm of it. Here he is, just a shape moving through the dark, doing his part in the relay. Harvey knows this hour. The blood he moves carries everything the liver has prepared and everything the kidneys have balanced. He does not know, in any thinking sense, what those organs have done. But the blood that returns to him through the long night is clean, calibrated, supplied. He pumps it forward. They prepare it again. The loop continues, patient and exact, until the room begins to lighten. This is not maintenance in the sense of fixing something broken. It is maintenance in the older sense, the keeping of a thing in good order, the way a careful person tends a garden, not because it is damaged, but because tending is how it stays well. It did not ask for attention to do its work. It only asked for time. The day has loosened its grip. Whatever it was carrying, it can put down now. You are allowed to be finished with it. And so the body moves inward, not deeper into the dark exactly, deeper into itself. The outer work, the barrier of skin, the quiet scaffolding of bone, the slow repair of muscle, the steady pump of the heart, the easy pull of the lungs, the patient processing of the liver and the kidneys, all of that continues. It has always continued, but now the journey reaches the part of the body that most people think of first when they think of sleep, the brain. Here is the first thing to say about it. The brain has no muscle of its own, none. Every other organ we have visited has its own contractile power. The heart squeezes, the diaphragm pulls, the smooth muscle of the gut nudges things along. The brain just sits there, a dense folded mass roughly the weight of a small cantaloupe, and thinks, or rather, it processes, it coordinates, it receives, routes, stores, discards, and repairs. It does all of this at a cost that is genuinely remarkable for something that simply sits still. Of all the oxygen your blood carries through the night, the brain claims a share that no other organ comes close to matching. and it claims that share whether you are awake, asleep, or somewhere in between. It does not reduce its energy demands the way muscle does. It shifts what it does with that energy. That is the difference. While you sleep, the brain is not quieter. It is differently loud. You may have heard of sleep stages, the way sleep moves in cycles, alternating between deep quiet phases and a more active phase during which the eyes move under closed lids. That active phase is called REM sleep, meaning rapid eye movement sleep. In the deeper stages, the large, slow waves of electrical activity rolling across the brain's surface are not a sign of shutdown. They are a sign of heavy maintenance work, and in REM, the brain's activity looks to a measuring instrument, almost like waking. Dreams happen there. Memory does some of its most careful filing there. But the mechanism that earns the most wonder, and the one that took scientists a surprisingly long time to find, belongs to the whole sleeping brain, not just one stage. Here is where lymphatic Lars steps in. Lars manages a network of fine channels that run alongside the brain's blood vessels, a system called the glymphatic system, meaning the brain's own version of the lymphatic drainage the rest of the body uses. Lars has been trying to explain this system to anyone who will listen. He notes with characteristic patience that it operates almost exclusively when you are horizontal and asleep. He notes that the channels open wider in sleep. He notes that cerebrospinal fluid, a clear liquid, called that because it surrounds both the brain and spinal cord, moves through those open channels and washes through the brain's tissue in a way it simply cannot do when you are upright and awake. The point of all that washing is removal. Through the course of a day, the brain cells produce metabolic waste, byproducts of their constant energy use, proteins that have served their purpose and need clearing out. Some of these are proteins with names that have appeared in conversations about brain health in later life. Lars does not need to name them here. What matters is the mechanism. Sleep opens the drain. The fluid moves. The waste is carried away, out through the channels, into the wider lymphatic system, and eventually to the liver, which, as we have already seen, handles whatever arrives at its door. Lars would like you to know that this is not a metaphor. It is a physical flow of fluid through physical channels that widen measurably during sleep. He finds it professionally clarifying that the brain, the organ most associated with wakefulness and productivity, depends on sleep as the only window in which its most essential housekeeping can happen at full capacity. Harvey knows this. The heart slows its rate through the night, partly because the brain is no longer sending the busy signals of waking life. The parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and restore branch, sometimes called the calming branch, holds the dominant position through sleep. Heart rate drifts downward. Blood pressure eases. The brain's blood supply continues, of course, because a brain without blood supply is not a brain that cleans itself. But the demand is different. The urgency is gone. And in that reduced urgency, the glymphatic channels find the conditions they need. There is something almost architectural about it. The brain builds itself for waking. It uses sleep to renovate the building. The two states are not opposites. They are phases of the same ongoing project. Melatonin Mila, who began all of this hours ago when the light faded and she signaled the shift change, is still present in the bloodstream, still holding the flag that tells every cell in the body, this is the window. Use it well. She will ease off before morning, letting cortisol, the waking signal, rise gradually in her place. But right now, in this stretch of the night, she is doing exactly what she was made to do. The brain is not resting. It is doing the work that only this hour allows. It did not make the night quieter. It made it necessary. Nothing is required of you now. Not thinking, not planning, not remembering. All of it can wait until morning. There is a part of the body that most people never think about until something goes wrong. And even then, they think about the symptom, the soreness, the fever, the fatigue, without ever quite seeing the machinery behind it. That machinery has a night shift. It is quieter than you might expect, and far more organized. The immune system does not work like a fire department, waiting in the station for something to burn. It works more like a standing army running continuous operations, training, patrolling, cataloging, preparing. Most of that work, the deep, slow, meticulous kind, happens while everything else in the body has lowered its demands, which is to say, right now. White blood cell Willie showed up at dusk and has not stopped moving since. Willie is a patrol officer, a filing clerk, and a training sergeant all at once. A single cell type whose job is to recognize what belongs in the body and what does not, to remember it, and to teach that memory to others. He has been doing this every night for as long as the body has been alive. He does not call attention to himself. He just moves and notes and files. The cells he represents, the body's white blood cells, technically called leukocytes, meaning simply the white cells of the blood, travel the bloodstream and the lymph channels, which are a second network of fluid-carrying vessels running alongside the blood vessels like a parallel road. These channels carry no oxygen. They carry information, debris, fragments of anything foreign the body has encountered during the day. Willie's job is to receive that information and act on it. During sleep, certain kinds of white blood cells move into the lymph nodes in greater numbers. Lymph nodes are small, bean-shaped structures. The body has many of them tucked into junctions along those lymph channels, and they function as processing stations. Fragments of anything the body has been exposed to are matched against what the immune system already knows. When something is unfamiliar, the nodes produce more of the specific cells equipped to handle it. This process, building targeted immune cells in response to a recognized pattern, is sometimes called immune priming. It is how a vaccine works when it works well. It is also how ordinary daily life works. The body meets a fragment, processes it while you sleep, and wakes up slightly more prepared than it was the night before. Willie does not editorialize about this. He simply files the paperwork. What sleep adds to all of this is not simply time. It is chemistry. Certain signaling compounds, called cytokines, meaning proteins that carry messages between cells, are released in greater amounts during sleep. Some of them tell white blood cells where to go. Some of them stimulate the production of new immune cells. Some of them regulate the intensity of the immune response so it stays proportionate to the actual situation. Cytokines are not the immune response itself. They are the coordination, the dispatch center, the instructions that keep Willie's operation organized rather than chaotic. Without adequate sleep, that coordination degrades. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, the messages get less precise. The production of targeted immune cells slows. The filing is incomplete. Willie drives the patrol route, but some of the checkpoints get missed. Harvey knows this. The heart has been working alongside the immune system its entire life. Every white blood cell Willie represents arrived at its destination through Harvey's chambers, through the push and pull of that tireless pump. The blood is the highway. Harvey is the engine keeping it moving. When the immune system needs more cells somewhere, it is Harvey's rhythm that carries them there. They have been partners for every day this body has been alive. Not always with acknowledgement, but always with precision. The thymus is worth a pause. It is a small organ that sits in the upper chest, just behind the breastbone. In childhood, it is comparatively large. By adulthood, it has mostly been replaced by fatty tissue, but it has already done its most important work, training the T cells, a specific kind of white blood cell, to recognize the body's own tissue as safe and everything else as potentially worth investigating. That early education is permanent. The T cells carry it for life, and every night, those cells are redistributed. They move from the blood into tissues, into lymph nodes, into places where the night's sorting is done. Then before morning, many of them return. It follows a daily rhythm called circadian immune regulation, meaning the body's white cells move on a schedule aligned with the light-dark cycle. Melatonin Mila's signal, traveling from the pineal gland into the bloodstream, helps coordinate that schedule. The white cells respond to the same chemical cue that tells the rest of the body the dark has arrived. They shift when she signals. They return when the signal fades. The body, it turns out, has been keeping time in its immune system as reliably as anywhere else. The cells that defend it know when they are supposed to do their deepest work. They have always known. They were built for exactly this window. Willie, for his part, asks for nothing. He does not require acknowledgement. He is methodical, thorough, and absolutely unbothered by the fact that the rest of the body is asleep while he works. That is, in fact, the point. It did not make the night safer. It made it legible. Let the back settle into the mattress. Let it take your weight completely. It has been waiting all day to do that. And now the journey reaches its final stop. Not an organ, not a system. Something smaller, and in its smallness, something that holds the whole night together. The cell. There are roughly 37 trillion of them in a human body. 37 trillion. That number is not meant to impress you. It is meant to give you a sense of scale, the way a long, quiet road gives you a sense of distance. It is not the number that matters most. It is the fact that every single one of those 37 trillion cells is doing something right now, not waiting, not paused, not dark, working. The body at night is not the body switched off. And nowhere is that more plainly visible than at the level of the cell, where the shift does not slow, it changes its purpose. During the hours of motion and attention, the waking hours, cells are spending. They spend fuel, they spend structural material, they spend chemical signals. A muscle cell burns through its stored resources with every contraction. A neuron fires and depletes its local supply of signaling molecules. A skin cell holds its position in the barrier and takes whatever the day throws at it. Friction, temperature, the 1,000 ordinary contacts that cost it something. It is exactly what the cells are meant to do, but spending requires replenishment, and replenishment requires a quieter window. While you sleep, cells across every tissue in the body shift their activity toward repair and renewal. The spending phase yields to the restocking phase. Proteins that were damaged or used up get rebuilt. Membranes, the thin, precise walls that hold each cell together and manage everything that passes in or out, get patched and reinforced. The cell's internal machinery, which ran hard through the day, gets cleared of the byproducts that accumulate when things are busy. It is called autophagy, meaning loosely the cell eating its own debris. It is not as dramatic as it sounds. Think of it as a tidy internal disposal system, recognizing worn-out parts, broken proteins, expired machinery, and carefully dismantling them so the raw materials can be used again. It runs through the night, room by room, unhurried. The cell does not throw anything useful away. It recycles. It is quietly and impressively economical. At the center of most cells, running the energy side of all this, are the mitochondria, the small structures that convert fuel into the chemical form the cell can actually spend. They take glucose, they take oxygen, and through a long, careful chain of steps, they produce the energy that powers everything else in the cell, not just during waking hours, through the night as well, because the cell's maintenance work also costs energy. Rest does not mean the power is off. It means the power is being directed somewhere different. And here is the part that quietly ties everything together. Every system visited through this night, the skin laying collagen, the bones cycling calcium, the muscles rebuilding their fibers, the heart regulating its own electrical timing, the lungs following their easy passive rhythm, the liver managing the blood's composition, the kidneys holding the body's fluid balance, the brain washing its channels clean, the immune cells carrying out their careful filing, All of it runs on what the cell produces. The organ is only as capable as its cells allow. The cells are only as capable as the night allows. That is not a small thing. It is, in fact, the whole thing. Harvey knows this. The heart is a muscle, and the muscle is made of cells, and those cells are replenishing themselves in this exact window. Harvey's steady rhythm through the sleeping hours is not only a pump working at a lower rate. It is 37 trillion cells, his among them, using this precise, unrepeatable window to do the work that cannot be done any other way. Melatonin Mila signaled the shift. Growth hormone Greg brought the blueprint for the rebuild. Lymphatic Lars opened the drainage channels in the brain. White blood cell Willie ran the security sweep. Liver Lisa held the blood composition steady. The lungs pulled in easy air. The bones managed their own mineral traffic without announcement. And under all of it, supporting all of it, making all of it possible, the cell running its own quiet version of the same shift. There is a word for this kind of coordination. It is called homeostasis, meaning the body holding itself in balance, not rigidly, but actively, the way a person on a bicycle holds their line, not by being still. By making 1,000 small corrections no one notices. Sleep is when most of those corrections happen. Not because the body is somehow smarter at night, because the waking hours are too loud, too full of demands that pull every resource toward the surface. The night clears that noise. The cells get the quiet they need to do the careful work that keeps the whole system running through the next day and the day after that. Let the weight of the body ease into the surface beneath you. Every one of those 37 trillion small lives is, at this moment, doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It is not magic. It is mechanism. And that somehow makes it more wonderful, not less. Everything in the room is exactly as it needs to be. The dark is doing what dark does best. You can let it. So here is something nobody ever quite explains about sleep. The body does not simply rest evenly through the night, the way a stone rests on a riverbed. It moves through phases, distinct, orderly phases, each one with its own chemistry and its own job. And the deepest of those phases, the one the body most depends on, happens earliest. The first long stretch of deep sleep, the kind where the brain produces slow rolling waves of electrical activity, arrives within the first few hours of the night. This is not an accident. This is the body's oldest schedule, and into that specific window, right on time, something remarkable happens. A small gland at the base of the brain, about the size of a pea, sitting just below the hypothalamus, releases a signal. Not a flood, just a pulse. A single concentrated surge of a chemical called growth hormone. The name is a little misleading because by adulthood, most people have long since stopped growing in the usual sense. But growth hormone does not only make you taller when you are young, it does something quieter and more continuous than that. It tells the body's tissues to repair themselves. Muscle fiber that frayed during the day, connective tissue around a joint that absorbed 1,000 small compressions, skin cells at the base of the outer layer, working their slow way toward the surface. All of them receive the signal, and all of them, in their own way, answer it. Growth hormone Greg, if you have heard him mentioned before, his full story belongs to another episode, drives past at exactly this hour every night. He is a contractor who only works during deep sleep. Miss the window and he moves on. He will be back the following night. But the night you lost is simply gone. Here is what makes this particularly elegant. The pulse of growth hormone does not arrive on a random schedule. It is timed, coordinated. The body's internal clock, a cluster of cells in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, meaning the cluster that sits above the crossing of the optic nerves, has been tracking the rhythm of light and dark all day long. Melatonin Mila's signal, fading now as sleep deepens, told that clock when darkness had properly arrived. The clock said, "This is the hour," and so the gland released its pulse. Melatonin Mila, for her part, has done her job. She does not stay on duty all night. She lit the fuse and stepped back. The cascade of what happens next belongs to other systems now. The point is the timing, because what this reveals is something that took scientists a long time to piece together. The body does not treat the night as one undivided block of time. It treats the night as a sequence of specific opportunities. Deep sleep is one kind of opportunity. The lighter phases that follow are a different kind. The brief moments of near waking are not failures of sleep. They are part of the design. The body cycles through these states because each one allows a different kind of maintenance. And no single phase can do everything. Deep sleep allows the growth hormone pulse and the early, heavy maintenance that comes with it. Lighter phases allow the brain's waste-clearing channels, the ones lymphatic Lars tends, to keep flushing. And across all of it, beneath all of it, the heart keeps time. Steady, unhurried. Its rate finds its lowest comfortable point in deep sleep and holds it there, giving the coronary vessels the longest sustained stretch of low demand they will see all day. He does not rush it. There is no reason to. The roughly 100,000 beats that mark a full day are not evenly costly. The beats taken in deep sleep are the easiest beats the heart will make. They are taken slowly, with the least resistance, at the gentlest pressure. They are, in a real sense, the heart's version of repair. Not because cardiac muscle does something dramatic in this window, but because it does the least. And doing the least just here, at just this phase, is exactly what the tissue needs. Now think about what the body has assembled in this narrow stretch of time. Growth hormone releasing into the bloodstream, immune cells redistributing through lymph nodes, the brain's cleaning channels running at their widest, the liver managing fuel quietly and steadily. The kidneys holding the fluid balance of the blood, the skeleton's building team working in a low-pressure dark, the muscles knitting protein back into fiber, the skin laying collagen in the basal layer. All of it happening at once. All of it coordinated, not by a single command, but by a web of chemical signals and timing. The body's own internal version of a shift schedule, written not in ink, but in the rise and fall of hormones, the dilation of channels, the switching of proteins at the surface of cells. The body is not aware of any of this. The mind is not directing it. Awareness has stepped aside entirely, and the machinery runs cleanest precisely because of that. This is the thing that is easy to miss when you think of sleep as simply the absence of being awake. It is a presence, a specific, active, chemically rich presence that nothing else in the day replicates. The night does not suspend biology, it completes it, not a pause at all. The other half of the work. Let the breath out slowly. And again, there is no right way to do this. There is only softer, and then softer still. So here is something worth sitting with for a moment. All of this, the immune cells redistributing, the lymphatic channels widening, the growth hormone arriving in its careful pulse, the liver quietly managing the glucose supply, the bones slowly rebuilding themselves. None of it happens in a random heap. None of it is simply the body doing what it does in some undifferentiated fog. Every one of those processes has a time, a slot in the schedule that the body has been keeping faithfully since long before clocks were invented. There is a clock inside this body, not a metaphor. An actual molecular timekeeper, running inside nearly every cell, synchronized to the rhythm of light and dark outside. Here's how it works, in plain terms. Certain proteins inside each cell build up slowly across the waking hours. When they reach a particular level, they begin to shut down their own production. A feedback loop, quiet and automatic, called the circadian clock. The word circadian simply means about a day. The loop takes roughly 24 hours to complete. It resets each morning when light reaches the eyes and signals the brain's master clock, a small cluster of cells sitting just above where the two optic nerves cross, to align itself with the actual time of day. That master clock then sends its signal outward, through hormones, to the nervous system, through temperature shifts and chemical cascades. And every organ, every tissue, every cell type adjusts its own timing accordingly. The liver knows it is night. The immune system knows it is night. The bones know. The skin knows. They do not need to check. The signal has already arrived. This is why the body does not simply do all of its repair work continuously, spreading it evenly across the 24 hours. It concentrates the work. It schedules it. The waking hours are for spending, for motion, for digestion, for alertness, for the 1,000 small acts of being in the world. The sleeping hours are for restocking, rebuilding, clearing, and consolidating. The body does not waste its repair budget when it is also running on full alert. It waits, then it gets to work. That is not inefficiency. That is extraordinary coordination. Melatonin, Mila, you will remember, is the first signal in that cascade. She rises as darkness falls and tells the body that the long, quiet window has opened. She is not the only signal, and she is not the last, but she is the door. Her full story, how she is made, where she is made, what else she governs through the night, is told carefully in her own episode. Here, she is simply the opening note of a very long piece of music. What that music plays out across is temperature. The body's core temperature drops in the early hours of sleep, not dramatically, just a small, reliable drift downward. That drop is part of the signal. Cooler core temperature is a cue for the repair machinery to begin. It is a cue for the brain to deepen its waves. It is a cue for the heart, Harvey's cue, to ease its pace and let the vessels recover from the day. Harvey knows this. He has been running since before birth, through every waking hour, through every sleeping one, and he knows the difference. The night feels different in the chest. The pressure is lower, the demands are quieter. The vessels that feed the heart muscle itself, the coronary arteries, are perfusing at a gentler pace, and the cardiac cells are doing what they can only do when the workload drops, quietly, steadily, patching themselves. And all of it, Harvey's ease, Mila's signal, the dropping temperature, the scheduled repair, all of it depends on the clock being respected. This is where the modern world and the ancient biology part ways. Very gently and very consequentially. The clock does not negotiate. It does not reschedule. Light at midnight tells it morning has arrived. The liver adjusts. The immune system adjusts. The glymphatic channels narrow. The growth hormone pulse does not come. The body keeps running. Of course it keeps running, but it runs on the waking schedule and the sleeping hours. And the maintenance work waits. There is no alarm in that. Just biology doing what biology does, following its instructions precisely, whatever instructions it is given. The clock wants darkness. It wants warmth that becomes slightly less warm. It wants the eyes to close and the body to go horizontal. When those things happen, the schedule opens and the night crew arrives exactly on time. And this is the thing that is easy to miss. The body does not experience the night as a problem to survive. It experiences it, if we can use that word loosely, as an opportunity, a long, structured, precisely timed window in which to do the work that cannot be done any other way. Not because the work is too delicate for daylight, but because the body has already assigned daylight to something else. The waking hours are spent. The sleeping hours restore what was spent. That exchange, running on a molecular clock older than any human institution, is the deal the body makes with itself every single day. Harvey knows this hour. He has always known it. He keeps his own time inside the larger time. not a separate system from all the others, the rhythm underneath all of them. Listen to how quiet it is between the words. That quiet is doing more for you than anything being said. So the clock runs, and the organs follow, but something has to carry the message. Not a wire, not a nerve signal firing at 1,000 miles an hour. Something slower, more patient, and in its own way, more trustworthy. A hormone. Here's what a hormone actually is beneath the word. It is a molecule released by one part of the body, carried in the blood, and read by another part entirely. A letter sent through the bloodstream. The sender does not know what the receiver will do. It only knows the letter has been sent. The receiver, if it has the right receptor, the right lock for that particular key, reads the signal and responds. If it does not have the receptor, the letter passes by unnoticed. That selectivity is the whole point. One signal, many potential readers, each deciding whether this message is meant for them. Through the sleeping hours, the body is full of these letters. Melatonin Mila, of course, is the earliest one out. Her signal does not so much command sleep as it clears the path for it, telling the hypothalamus, telling the liver, telling even the gut that darkness has arrived and the body's timing should shift accordingly. She started her work hours before the eyes closed. By now, deep into the night, her levels have risen to their quiet peak and are already holding there, steady as a lamp left burning on the porch. If you want the full story of how she does that, the pineal gland, the light-sensing pathway, the gut's own small contribution, she has her own episode, and she would be glad of the company. But Mila is only one letter in the stack. Cortisol is another, and this one moves on a very different schedule. Cortisol is the body's alerting hormone, the one that rises with demand, that tells tissues to mobilize, that sharpens focus, and raises the readiness of the whole system. During the waking day, it rises and falls in waves, with a natural peak in the early morning hours. Through the sleeping night, it runs low, deliberately low. The body is not reading that signal right now because it does not need to be mobilized. It needs to be maintained. And maintenance work, the quiet rebuilding kind, goes better when the mobilizing signal is quiet. This is not an accident of timing. The body's internal clock suppresses cortisol through the sleeping hours as deliberately as it raises melatonin. One goes up, the other goes down, not by chance. By design that has been refined over an enormous stretch of evolutionary time. Harvey knows this. The heart runs at a slower, easier pace, partly because the cortisol level is low. Lower demand hormone, lower vascular tone, lower resting pressure through the arteries. The coronary vessels, the ones that wrap the outside of the heart and feed its own muscle, receive their best flow when that pressure eases. The heart, for all its constancy, is also a beneficiary of the night's hormonal quiet. It does not ask for the favor. It simply runs better because of it. And then there is the hormone that works only in the deepest part of the night. Growth hormone Greg makes his rounds during the slow wave phases of sleep, the stages where brain waves lengthen and deepen, where the body is furthest from waking. He is a contractor, reliable as weather, but only on his own schedule. His signal, a peptide, meaning a small chain of amino acids, binds to receptors on muscle cells and fat cells and bone cells and tells them the same thing. Now is the time to build, to replenish, to pull stored fuel and use it for repair. Not tomorrow, not when the day starts. Now in the dark, while demand is low and the supply lines are uninterrupted. If the deep sleep phases are cut short, Greg drives past. The work order sits unfinished. It is not that the body fails to repair at all. It is that the most efficient window, the one the internal clock specifically clears for structural rebuilding, does not get used. The cells that were waiting for the signal wait a little longer. And the next night, if the deep phases return, Greg is back at the door. While you sleep, he builds. That is simply what he does. So the sleeping body is not hormonally quiet. It is hormonally specific. Melatonin holding steady, cortisol held low, growth hormone pulsing through the deep phases, and between them, insulin running at its gentlest overnight rhythm while the liver manages the slow supply of glucose to the brain, and the blood carries all of these signals to every corner of the approximately 37 trillion cells that make up the body's full population. 37 trillion recipients, each one checking its receptors, each one reading the letters that are meant for it and letting the others pass. Harvey knows this hour. He carries every one of those letters. His job is simply to keep the circulation moving, steady, a little slower than the day, exactly as the night requires. He does not write the messages. He does not read them. He delivers them, beat after quiet beat, without complaint and without pause. The hormones do not override the body's systems. They inform them. They say, here is the hour, here is the task, here is what the moment calls for. The systems listen because they have always listened. This is how the night coordinates itself, not through command but through chemistry, patient and precise. Not a conductor standing over the orchestra, more like a shared score that every player already knows. Deeper now. Softer now. The breath keeps its own slow time, in and out, without any help from you. And so the score plays on. Every part of the body you have visited through this night is still at work, still tending to its own quiet business. The skin at the surface, laying down its slow repair. The bones beneath, their marrow steady and unhurried. The muscles soft now, accepting the gifts of the deep hours. The heart moves at its own calm pace, a little slower than the day asked of it, a little more room between beats. Harvey knows this hour. the one that asks nothing urgent, the one where the work is simply keeping on. The lungs draw air in, let it go, draw it in again. No effort in it now, just the diaphragm doing what it has always known how to do, without being asked, without being watched. The liver is at its quiet processing. The kidneys are making their careful adjustments. Neither of them is rushing. Neither of them is waiting for permission. They simply continue the way a river continues, because that is what rivers do. Deep inside the skull, the brain is washing itself clean. Channels widened, fluid moving slowly through, gathering what the day left behind. Lars is at his work, patient, methodical. He has always preferred this hour. And underneath all of it, beneath every organ, every system, every quietly turning process, the cells, roughly 37 trillion of them, each one doing its own small version of the same thing, restoring, clearing, rebuilding, preparing for a morning that is still some hours away. The body at night is not the body switched off. It never was. It is the same body running a different shift. A shift that belongs to repair, to memory, to the slow and careful work that the day never leaves enough room for. The night carves out that room. Every night, without fail. You have been traveling inward for a long while now, from the outside, from the skin that meets the world, all the way down to the smallest working unit the body has. And at every stop, the same thing has been true. Nothing was waiting. Nothing was paused. Everything was simply doing its other work. The skin was laying collagen. The skeleton was rebalancing its minerals. The muscles were knitting themselves back together, fiber by quiet fiber. The heart was recovering its variability, its gentle sway. The lungs were matching their rhythm to a body that no longer needed to hurry. The liver was managing the fuel supply. The kidneys were holding everything in balance. The immune system was sorting the day's encounters, filing what mattered, preparing for whatever comes next. The brain was clearing the byproducts of its own long thinking. All of it coordinated, all of it timed, not by accident, but by a clock that lives inside nearly every cell. A clock that has been running for as long as living things have needed to make sense of dark and light. Melatonin Mila is still here, still holding her signal steady in the dark. She does not rush this part. She knows how long the night needs to be. And the hormones are still moving through the blood, the cortisol low, the way it should be, growth hormone having done its quiet work in the deep sleep hours. The blood carrying it all, every signal, every instruction, to every part of the body that needs to hear it. Harvey knows this. He has been the one doing the carrying all through the night. Boom, 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 low and steady now, unhurried. Every contraction, moving the blood a little further, reaching a little further, delivering what each corner of the body is quietly waiting for. The body you are resting in right now is not empty of activity. It is full of it, humming with it. A whole second shift, happening in the dark, happening without any effort on your part at all. All you have to do is stay here. Let the breath come and go. Let the weight of the limbs settle a little further into the mattress. The skin is doing its work. The bones are doing theirs. The heart is steady. The lungs are easy. The liver is undisturbed. The brain is washing, sorting, filing. The cells are restoring themselves from the inside out. None of it needs you to be awake. None of it needs your attention. It only needs the night. And the night is here, deep and quiet and full of work, the way it has always been. Somewhere outside, the night is going about its business without you. It does not need watching. You can put that down too. Deep and quiet and full of work, the way it has always been. The skin is still at it, not rushing, not announcing anything, just the slow, patient work of repair, fibroblasts laying down new collagen where the day wore the old away. The surface of the body resting against the sheets, warm, doing what it has always done in the dark. And beneath the skin, the skeleton, 206 bones, every one of them alive, every one of them held in a quiet balance of breaking down and building back up. The marrow still working, the calcium still moving where it needs to go, not waiting for morning, already at it. The muscles, too. There is no tension in them right now. Let the hands go soft. Let the jaw unclench. The big muscles of the back and legs have released their grip entirely. And in that release, the quiet work begins, protein laid down, fiber by fiber, replacing what the day took. The body asking nothing of the muscles but this: rest on the outside, repair on the inside. And at the center of it all, the heart. Slower now than it has been all day. The rate has dropped. The pressure has eased. The coronary vessels are doing their own quiet maintenance in the reduced demand, beat by beat. The same rhythm it has kept since before there was a first memory. Harvey knows this hour, the long, unhurried shift, the body asking less so it can give more. The breath is easy. In and out, the diaphragm dropping and rising without any instruction from the thinking mind. The brainstem counting carbon dioxide in the blood, making its small, constant adjustments. Not too slow, just exactly right for a body lying still in the dark. And deeper inside, the liver, running its long, patient shift, blood moving through, compounds being sorted, glucose being made and metered out, just enough, just in time, no announcements, no requests for gratitude. Just the work, done the same way it has always been done. The kidneys alongside it, filtering, balancing, adjusting for the horizontal body, the slowed heart, the quieter chemistry of sleep. They have been at this all night, and they will keep at it until morning without a single complaint. And the brain, the organ that spent all day absorbing, deciding, reacting, worrying, noticing, is now given over entirely to the other kind of work. The channels are open, the fluid moves through. The accumulated debris of a long day of thinking is being cleared, gently, systematically, carried away. The brain doing its heaviest maintenance precisely in this window and in no other. Lymphatic Lars is somewhere in there, doing his rounds, quiet as always, patient as always, the kind of worker who never needs to be watched to do the job right. And the immune system, white blood cells moving through the lymph nodes, memory being filed, new responses being practiced, the body building its knowledge of the world while the conscious mind is entirely elsewhere. Willie would tell you it is the most important shift in the whole building. He would not be wrong. And beneath all of it, beneath every organ, every system, every named process, the cells, roughly 37 trillion of them, each one running its own quiet maintenance, each one clearing what it no longer needs, each one restocking for the day that has not arrived yet. The whole body, all the way down to its smallest unit, in the same agreement, the same shift, the same unhurried work. This is what the night is. Not absence, not emptiness, not the body switched off and waiting. It is the second shift, the essential one, the one that makes every other shift possible. The skin repairs, the bone builds, the muscle restores, the heart recovers, the lungs breathe without asking, the liver and the kidneys keep their balance, the brain clears its own house, the immune system learns. The cells renew. All of this, all at once, in a body that looks from the outside like it is simply resting. Harvey knows this. He has always known it. Every beat he has given the night is a beat the whole body depends on. Slow and steady and sure. The way it was always meant to be done. The dark holds everything. The body is doing exactly what it should. Let it. Feel how still the room has become. Warm and quiet and safe. Nothing here needs your attention. Nothing here is asking anything of you at all. The body is doing exactly what it should. Let it. And here at the end of the night's long walk inward, there is nothing left to explain. Every system has been named. Every organ has been visited. The skin is working. The bones are being rebuilt. The muscles are restocking. The heart is settling into its slowest, most recovered rhythm. The lungs are moving air without being asked. The liver is keeping the numbers right. The kidneys are holding the balance. The brain is being washed clean. The immune cells are filing their reports. And deep inside every one of the roughly 37 trillion cells that make up the body in this room, the quiet machinery of repair is running its shift. Nothing is switched off. Nothing is waiting. The body did not stop when the lights went out. It changed what it was doing. That is the whole truth of it, and it needs no exaggeration. Somewhere in the chest, a pump that has never once stopped is beating a little slower now, a little wider between beats. Harvey knows this hour, the long, unhurried dark, better than any other. He has worked every one of them. He asks for nothing except the conditions to do his job well. The quiet, the horizontal, the dark, the uninterrupted stretch of time in which his own repair can proceed. And all of it, every process named through this long, slow walk, is already underway, has been since the eyes closed, will continue without any instruction from the waking mind until morning. There is nothing left to do. While you sleep, Heart Harvey is already at work. He is moving blood through the coronary arteries that feed his own walls, letting the cardiac cells take up what they need. His rate is low, his rhythm is wide and unhurried. The space between beats, that gentle, healthy variation called heart rate variability, is recovering with every cycle of deep sleep. The pressure on the vessel walls has eased. The electrical signal that starts each beat in his own tissue, without any order from the brain, is running clean and steady in the dark. He does not need to be told. He does not need to be reminded. He has been doing this work since before the first breath, and he will keep doing it through every night that follows. You don't have to do anything. Your body knows exactly what to do. It's been doing this work for your entire life, every single night. So let it, trust it, and as you drift deeper now, Heart Harvey will be here when you wake up. Quieter, calmer, better.